I'm Christiana Szilard with Action for Children, and I want to tell you about our new series called Pull Up a Chair. We're hosting real conversations between our resident experts at Action for Children and parents just like you to foster informative dialogue on topics that matter to parents, guardians, and caregivers. Our hope is to provide you with valuable insights, practical tips, and emotional support to allow you to embrace and better navigate this grand adventure called parenthood. So now that you're here, pull up a chair. We've saved you a seat.
My name is Marland, and I'm with Fatherhood.
My name is Jeff, and I'm manager of our family asset building programs at Action for Children. All right, Marland, let's talk a little bit about in our fatherhood work some of the myths or misconceptions that fathers come in having heard about or even experiencing. What's been your experience with these myths about fatherhood with our dads?
There's several myths out there that our fathers come in with that we talk about. Some of the myths can be that fathers are not good listeners. Fathers are only disciplinarians. Fathers don't father girls, they father boys only. So those are just to name a few of what they come in and what we try to dispel.
Another big one that I think about is fathers are not as important as moms. So I know that that's something that we've talked about amongst ourselves many times. Let's talk about that a little bit. So fathers are not as important as moms. What would you say to that?
Some of our fathers feel as if they're not as important as mothers. When they come into our program, some of them are defeated, whether it's through the judicial system, child support. When they come to us, I like to say that their tank is on a quarter of a tank, or if not lower, they're on empty. And we have to build them up. We have to fill that tank up with what fathers are. And we have to, through our curricula, let them know that they are important and the meaning behind fatherhood. There's science behind that. Fathers are important. And there's national studies out that show when fathers are involved, the kids do have better outcomes in school, behavioral, health, long-term health. So we want to get fathers on the same stage as mothers because it only benefits the kids.
Yeah, so we know the outcomes that you mentioned all improve exponentially when there's a positive father in their life. The other thing I think is important to talk about is that both parents in a child's life is optimal. So it's not that fathers or mothers are more important than the other. They're equally important in their children's lives, and those outcomes improve across every measurable outcome when they are involved. You know, I think another interesting thing about some of these myths around fatherhood is that a lot of guys come in, they're in a silo. They think that they're on an island. And so one of the great powers of group discussion is that they get to hear from other fathers. And some of these myths get broken down right before their eyes because they go, oh, that he heard the same things that I heard. He was being run off or, being, kept from something. But absolutely, I'm not alone. And I think that's really important for fathers who may not otherwise have these conversations together.
And I love that you mentioned not being alone. When they come into our program, kind of like the first day of kindergarten, you kind of fill out who's going to be my friend for the next 11 or 12 years. With our program, these guys, they come in by the second day, they're starting the jail. First day, introductions, we're, tapping into the curricula a little bit. But they're in a space where they no longer feel lonely, alone. And when they talk to us, and by the end of the cohort, 3 weeks or 4 weeks, or whatever, how we design it for that particular cohort, they're like family. And when they leave, they love it.
Marland, you're working with dads, new dads, veteran dads all the time. What was your experience when you became a dad? What hurdles did you face? Did you face any of these myths that we're talking about?
I have. One of the biggest things I faced was working with child support. A lot of these guys that come into our program right now, they do have cases with child support, current cases. And having a set of older kids, and I'm currently out of the system, so to speak, I'm able to talk to them in a manner where they can understand where I'm coming from. And I was 19.
Wow.
So my maturity level wasn't there. And I made some mistakes and some missteps. And so I got married, happily married to my wife. I got more kids with her. So I felt as if I'm pouring into my kids with my wife, that I was lacking, I'm missing something with my older kids. And so trying to rebuild that relationship, I could see it in the fathers that's coming in, because some of our fathers do have kids by more than one woman. And so in that situation, I can help them and relate to them and let them know there is time to make amends.
What I would say to a dad who is coming to us and is unsure, overwhelmed, that's perfectly normal. That's absolutely how everyone feels, and we should normalize that. You don't know what you don't know. We do the best with what we have. And fatherhood and parenting is a lifelong journey. You're always improving. You just talked about how your journey was, Marland, right? So it's always continuing. You're always learning. Be curious, and you will continue to learn with each child, should you have more than one. So Marland, you're facilitating these groups all week long. You got different dads from different backgrounds. How are you, and how quickly are you addressing some of these myths? What's it look like when you're working in front of these fathers?
We have a discussion, so we have 12 sessions. Every session is different. And some of the myths that we break down is masculinity. Yeah. And we do talk about, we have 2 sessions where we talk about unhealthy masculinity. That's a big myth right there to address. As far as men and younger men and teenage boys and younger boys, we have to get them in the mindset of what you've learned before may not be best for you in the future. So we have a guide, we have a book that we actually go over, and we talk to them about what unhealthy masculinity look like. We may show a video, but more importantly, they're talking about what it looks like to them and how it can be corrected. So we do that for every session. Here's the topic, let's address it, let's get their feedback, but then let's also show them how to do it right if that is the case.
Right, and the other thing is when they're first coming in, we're getting to know each other, but we're talking about how did we get here? We're all coming at it from different places, so we're kind of reflecting on our experience. So we break down some of those myths based on where you came from, what your experience was, who was your role model, who were your role models. And then we're starting to really talk about some hands-on parenting that gives the guys confidence and supports them around building the relationship with their child, and how you use affection and intimacy and talking to your child, reading with your child, all those things that they're already doing and wanting to do. It reinforces how important that is. We address this being vulnerable and what it means to be a father, what it means to be a man in a couple of different areas within our discussions. One is just as parenting and being a father, how important it is to be affectionate with your child, how important it is to listen to your child, empower them rather than just telling them what to do, right? We want our children to learn how to self-regulate, and by involving them in processes, they begin to do that rather than being told what to do. I think we also, and I'd like you to talk a little bit on this if you'd like, the healthy masculinity piece of how important it is for us as men to recognize what it means to be a father to your child and what the pressures may be from a societal level on us right out the gate.
Yeah, Jeff, what it means is unhealthy masculinity is just it's unhealthy. We box ourselves in when men only display the unhealthy nature of who we are. Does nobody good, not yourself, not your family, not your extended family, not your community. And so what we want to do is just get the guys to understand what it means to be vulnerable. It takes a lot for a guy to express themselves in our cohort. And when they do express themselves, they are being vulnerable. We hear things that family members probably will never hear. So they're taking that time to be vulnerable with us. And we're giving them the courtesy of listening to them and not being judged or judgmental towards them. And I think that's what men, we have to understand. We can be vulnerable. We do talk about filling words in relation to our kids, we could take some of that same feeling words and apply them to ourselves, like feeling sad, like feeling lonely, just as well as feeling happy and joyful. We want our fathers to experience those feeling words and be able to package it up and be heard from our cohort and as a facilitator, and to be recognized for that.
Yeah, and I think that I want to play off what you just said, packaging it up too, because vulnerability. What is vulnerability? If you look at an authoritarian approach to parenting, it's telling someone this is my way or the highway, and a lot of times it's going to get immediate results. So it is a temptation for a lot of parents to parent that way. But actually involving your child, this is what we're really working with everybody on, is this positive parenting approach of building a foundation of a relationship with your child, empowering them with choices, listening to them, listening to their feelings, supporting their feelings, encouraging their growth. All of these things lead to a different relationship with your child and helps them self-regulate. And that is partly being vulnerable to putting in the work that it takes for those longer-term outcomes that you're looking for. Fatherhood to me is an awesome responsibility and an amazing privilege. So you are responsible for your children, for their upbringing, guiding them, protecting them, teaching them, supporting them, encouraging them. And it's an amazing privilege to be able to do that. One of the things that we work on is feelings and listening to feelings with our children. And that's always a really interesting conversation, because we don't realize our go-to as a father a lot of times is to try and fix our children's emotions, problems. We don't want to see them struggle. We don't want to see them cry. We don't want to see them frustrated. And so we talk a lot about how that's an important part of growing up. Struggle is how you learn. So as fathers, we're really working to listen to our children's feelings and to not fix everything, to resist that urge. What other lessons are you thinking of when we're talking to our fathers or discussions about becoming a nurturing father?
One of the biggest aspects of becoming a nurturing father is taking that tool belt off, taking that fatherhood tool belt off of wanting to fix their issues. There's other ways to address, to fix, and one of the ways is one of our sessions is just by listening. It's just as simple as listening. Sometimes our kids, they don't want us to fix everything. I love my kids, and I've had to learn to take that tool belt off. And I've learned to sit down, and there's a science when it comes to nurturing and listening. And our curricula talks about that. And a couple ways is not on your computer. You don't have your head turned. You have your eyes looking forward at your kids. You're listening. You're using visual cues to them, like, yes, I hear you. And when our kids are felt like they're being heard, that's a nurturing aspect that cup will never go empty as long as you can hear them out on any aspect and not be judgmental.
So Marland, we have a lot of dads that come to us. Like a lot of us, life is stressful. So stress is a pretty common emotion or feeling that folks are having when we first interact with them. What would you say to a dad, or what do we talk about to help deal with stress and address being a parent? It's stressful being a parent.
It is. It's very stressful being a parent. Number one, go somewhere where you can be heard. There's times where you just have to listen. And so you can pose your question to somebody, but also know you're going to get a trusted answer or response. And that's something with Father Up that we try to do. We try to give them an example of what they can do when they are stressed. We do have a curricula that talks about self-care and what to do in order to obtain self-care. And one of them can be as simple as going to a park. One of it can be just as simple as sitting in your car eating lunch, getting out of your office, getting out of the aspect of the loud noise, getting to your space, your safe space. I think we should all have our safe space. Being a father is no different. So knowing that I can go somewhere, and to me, that's always going to be Father Up, but know that you can be heard and know you're going to get some wisdom and you can take it and use it to your advantage.
Yeah, and that wisdom could come from the guy on the left, guy on the right, could come from the facilitator. And I love that you said being heard, because that really is a big part of what's happening. So I would say to any father that is stressed out, living chaos, trying to, achieve some goals but facing barriers, that's what's happening in Father Up. That's what the movement is. And you're around a bunch of folks that have similar circumstances, maybe different circumstances that you can learn from. But at the core, it's about being heard. It's not about being judged. Everybody is there to learn. Everyone loves their child or children, and they have some goals that they want to try and achieve.
And they do.
That's what we're doing together. What's your experience with dads coming in on Father Up?
There's a whole variety. There's a spectrum of guys that come in. We may have that grandfather who has custody of their 2-year-old or a 4-year-old, and they come in. The way they fathered 20, 25, 30 years ago is a little bit different to how it is in the new millennia. So these fathers or grandfathers may come in and they want to know, how can I teach my child and with this new learning environment when it comes to computers, when it comes to dealing with my child may be on the phone, my child has a computer and I don't know what to do. It's a whole variety, it's a whole spectrum of fathers that I see, and it can be that father who their baby will be probably born in September. Baby could be born in November. They want to gain some experience from us and hear from other fathers and what their experience is. We all know there's no manual when it comes to this fatherhood journey. And what we're trying to do at Father Up is just let these guys know what to expect. Let's give them the foundation because they are the architect of their pyramid.
Yeah, I would say everyone that comes to Father Up loves their child and loves their children. That's why they're there. Some of them may be facing challenges, barriers to being the father they want to be right at that time. And that's why, another reason why they may be there. And we have a wide range of fathers. You've got fathers that everything's going along really good for them as a parent and as a father. And then you have the other end of the spectrum where there's a lot of challenges and everything in between that. And again, that's one of the really interesting dynamics is that you're able to learn from everybody and their circumstances. The guy that feels that he's alone and on an island soon finds out that he's not. The guy that's got it held down and is got several kids and doing a great job, he can offer all kinds of things to the fathers, to the newer fathers in the groups that are still learning what it means to have an infant and a toddler and so on. So everything in between that I think is a really, really interesting dynamic, and it's what gets me up every day to come into work.
I feel the same way because I got to pinch myself. I feel like, hey, you get to do this every single day for fathers.
Marland, do you have anything that comes to mind as far as some dads you've been working with where you recognize a transformation, or maybe that light bulb went off and you just you were able to see that this was really impacting him, or maybe some successes that they shared in discussions?
I want to share one story. And I had a father that came to us. First day of cohort or workshops, that is an introduction time. And he introduced himself and his situation. This particular father was beat by the system. He was beat down by child support, mediation, because he felt like he wasn't getting his due to him. And so just by working with him, with our case managers, talking, being heard, being pointed in the right direction, we gave him agency. And he had a 4 to 5 year old little girl, and he hadn't seen her in a year, and that was daddy's little angel. And you could see the hurt in his face. He cried because I love my daughter. I haven't seen her in a year. It hurts. So what we did was we kind of got him in the right direction. Now it started with an hour visit, coming to us, and then listening, learning ways, and then it started a weekend visit. Now it's 50-50. And how do I know that? What we do, not only do we follow up with our fathers, and that's important, follow up once they leave our program is just as important the day they come in. And he came in happy, like Marland, come here. He had his daughter hiding in a corner. And he said, I want to show you something. And you could see it on his face. You could see the biggest smile. I thought he hit the lottery. He did hit the lottery. She came out, had the prettiest little dress on. He was happy. We got a picture, and we have a board of successes with our fathers. We see them at quarterly functions. We see them outside in the community, being representative of Father Up. But this one particular dad, he was able to bring his daughter to our quarterly function, and she was Daddy's little girl, looked just like him with pigtails, and he was so happy to see her. I made it my mission to have much more of those moments, and we are having much more of those moments. Once again, I'm using this word, but I love it, agency. We're restoring agency to these fathers.
Yeah, and I love, one of my favorite parts is when we do a pin ceremony with guys, and you see how emotional they get, and we do that at some of our quarterly events where the family comes just dressed to the nines for this event. But that really tells you a lot with how important it is to get pinned with a Father Up, lapel pin, and because it means so much to them. They went through it together, and to see them with the brothers in their cohort. And to me, success is all over their faces and all over the faces of their family, when they come to some of these events and in those ceremonies.
We have community events, and we had a 2nd and 7 event. And these are previous athletes that are tied to Ohio State, and they have a reading program 2nd and 7. And so it's for books, for literacy. It's for fathers to read to their kids. And I was in awe when this happened. It was Ohio State players there signing footballs. I wanted to get a few signatures, but I didn't want to look too greedy, so as a facilitator, I had to hold myself. But what really hit home to me was having a father have me sign that football, because he said I was just as important and I played a critical role like these athletes as a facilitator with Father Up. If I could have cried that day, I would have, but that was something that really hit home for me, and to me, that's a success.
Marland, I really enjoyed this conversation with you. In one word, how would you sum up our conversation today?
It's on our logo, Jeff, empowered.
That's great.
How about yourself? What one word is for you?
I would say excited. I think excited. It's an exciting topic, and just to be able to go back and forth with you on some of these myths and stereotypes has been really, really cool.
Jeff, thank you. It was a pleasure speaking with you today.
Marland, I really enjoyed the conversation. Thanks a lot.